And one day before I was nominated officially as CEO, I had this aneurysm in Berlin. So
You basically almost passed away on the job.
Almost.
Like that's 13% survival rate.
It's a miracle sitting here. Or that in this condition as I could have been in a wheelchair. But somehow I accepted it's kind of my life.
Hey, Philip here. Welcome to the third episode of the FLOT.BIO show, where I interview the best Europeans in biotech to help you be inspired and hopefully grow. And today I'm actually in Berlin and actually at my home in my living room to welcome Ingmar, who was the founder and the longtime CEO of CureVac. And this time I will skip a long intro about him because I kind of structured in the beginning of the interview. What we will talk about will cover how he built this like almost $20 billion company, while at the same time he almost died while being CEO. And we will touch why people skills are so important in biotech. So I will go open to him, we'll sit down and see in a bit. Welcome to the show, Ingmar.
Thank you.
It's a bit special to be in Berlin, in my home. I think it's great we managed to do it, and it's great we have some time ahead to discuss many topics. I mean, on the main topic I want to start with is that it's amazing that you've built, I mean, one of the leading mRNA company, CureVac, from really almost a garage. I remember you sent me this picture with your old school computer almost in a garage, up to it was almost a $20 billion company. Now it's a bit less. Obviously, I mean, help pioneers mRNA field, almost solving the pandemic. At the same time, it was a roller coaster also at the end. So, but I wanted to really start with that. I mean, start really with the beginning. Can you go back in these this picture with that computer? I think was doing your PhD. Can you go back there where what happened and what made you start?
Well, it's a long time. Well, I was also different in my personality at that time. I was kind of student.
Yeah.
I really was a kind of really free student to do what I want, and I got good connections to my professors. I think this was very important at the beginning. You don't need always attachment to personalities who inspire you, and this I got from chemical department, Professor Günther Jung, and also from the immunological department, Hans-Georg Rammensee. So this, I think the two together, I think they made me driving things forward. And of course, it was really hard to get a PhD contract from both of that. So I was actually attached more to the chemistry because they had more money. So I was with Günther also from my diploma thesis. I was attached to the chemistry department. I was quite out of chemistry. I was just one of two biologists in this department containing about 20 chemistry guys. It was really fun because they were different, had a different spirit than the biologists. They were kind of celebrating chemistry. So when there were lab meetings, there were always beer and things like that. It was really big fun. And in Hans-Georg lab meetings, where I also had to attend, it was quite severe things. He was really asking people and he was grilling people. Okay. So it wasn't a pleasure. You really had to be prepared very well in front of Hans-Georg's Rammensee lab. So I think this kinds of reflects where I've been, a complete freedom on the one side, on the other hand, scientific excellence on the other side. So maybe my personality, I was really looking for both everything. I really want to get to the borders of things, what could happen, and which also made me kind of strongly seeing a lot of things in my life. Also India, for example, I also went to the scientific Indology department with Professor Stiedenkron talking about myths, talking about Hinduism, things like that. So
this we will.
yeah. I think when you want to get to the start point, I have to flag this as well, because this was everything contributing to my mindset at that time. Because you might wonder why nobody did it before. It was discovered already in '93 that RNA can be transfected, or RNA can be given in cells or even in mice, and they do an immune response. But then there was nothing happening afterwards.
I heard you say on one interview, actually, I think that you gave a lot of interviews in German recently, and like millions of views, but I didn't find anything in English. And told me it's the first one in English, which is great. And I saw you, remember, in one you said, I was crazy enough to immunize the mice and to think it could work.
Yeah.
And then that gets you started.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it was somehow from Hans-Georg Ramsey's mindset. He went to a conference in the States where he went, Eli Gilboa, a Scandinavian researcher doing experiments with the dendritic cells, so immune cells. So he was transfecting dendritic cells with RNA, so putting RNA into cells and then re-inject the cell into mice. And Hans-Georg said, well, do it directly in mice. We shouldn't do this in cells. Although we didn't have any research what was going on in the 90s at that time, in 2000, even in the end of 90s, even the beginning of 90s were far away. So therefore we were thinking, okay, let's do it directly in mice. And this was kind of key experiment or key assay I was doing, that I was using also naked RNA. So I was using ribosome entrapped RNA ribosomes from Günter Jungs from the chemistry department. This was also great synthesis, as chemistry and immunology together. And I was also using DNA, as we know everything was done in DNA at that time. And I was using also naked RNA. And this was kind of interesting to see that naked RNA, it worked very well, much better than the encapsulated RNA or even than the DNA plasmid. So I was thinking why it could be like that, RNA was regarded as unstable all the time. Maybe also the reason why there wasn't coming anything behind the scientific studies in the 90s, that everybody was scared about RNA, was saying, no, we can't use this. It's not a kind of treatment molecule, can't do anything with RNA. So therefore, maybe I was kind of naive enough to think about, well, let's do it just naked. And then I was seeing this negative control was really highly positive. So then I was jumping on it and say, well, that's great. You can use RNA as a therapeutic molecule for everything, even cancer, viral diseases, bacterial diseases. But nobody really was believing in me. And of course, also the journal where we're publishing was the European Journal of Immunology, not Nature, not Science, Because I guess PhD students. Yeah. But even the potential was not there. I think, okay, this guy is inducing cytotoxic T cells. Okay, that's what should we learn from this? Why we should need this kind of stuff. So this was the real revolution. Maybe I'm not the inventor of RNA-based vaccines, but maybe I was really the guy who was pushing things into kind of commercial aspects. And when
just from the date we're talking like early 2000s.
Yes, early 2000s. Yes,
2000.
Yes, 2000. I think 2002 it was first foundation of CureVac.
Incorporation. Yeah. And can you go there? I mean, especially in the 2000s. I mean, it's fascinating to look back at it from now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But even on many topics, but on this topic as well, on incorporating. As a young PhD student, even today, where it's, I think, proportionally probably easier and more common, it's still extremely difficult.
Yeah.
But at that time, and I can imagine also, let's say, in Germany, where it's a bit more risk-averse in general than compared to the US, probably, I don't know the labs where come from, how entrepreneurial they were, but I can imagine that's the environment. So what happened there what happened? What were your mindset to really get into a commercial company?
Well, and the first thing I didn't thought about founding a company myself. I wanted driving it to the pharma companies. Every PhD, or especially from Günter Jung's lab, was going to the pharma companies, the chemistry companies, and things like that. So I was also applying in a lot of pharma companies, but I want to take the RNA approach, say, okay, I want to start this job, this job description, but I want to take my RNA here as well. I say, no, you can do this job description, but we don't interested in this RNA stuff.
I guess, no chemistry would be interested.
Exactly. So there was a reason where if I don't do it, nobody is doing it. So I have to do it, or kind of pressure. So I wasn't an entrepreneur from the very beginning. It was just in my head. I can't. And I was doing also an MBA because I was thinking, let's just think about it, whether we can do it by yourself, whether you can fund a company. And so I was doing a MBA in a kind of period for 1.5 years, where I did a mini job at a university or in a small company where I get a little money to spend to the MBA, because I was really taking time to think about how it's going on this. And after the MBA, I was quite sure I can do it myself.
Okay. Wow, that's good. And so I didn't know the MBA part. But so, and I guess also, I mean, that's one thing that is very underrated as a entrepreneurial, and especially in the young entrepreneurs. I mean, I can talk for myself as well. It's usually we don't have that many options either. It's like, I mean, and we are whatever, early 30s or the 30s. It's not like there's like hundreds of people approaching you to build something and you have like 100 job offers. You have like your project or 1 or 2 options, and usually you also choose what's your best option. I guess for you, once you evaluated the MBA, maybe that was the realization, okay, it's realistic enough, it excites me, it's the best option, let's go for it, basically.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the driving point was a program for young Innovatoren, which was a half position at a university, which we gained from the Land Baden-Württemberg. Yeah. So this was kind of money, because we need money, without money you can't do anything. So at least this was enough to survive a bit. But we couldn't invest in our company with this money. Yeah. So we were seeking a lot for venture capitalists, but we always were pushed back from these kind of guys. They don't believe, and also maybe my personality was not enough. Maybe I was too pushy, maybe I was too visionary, and the small guy of Tübingen, who is this guy? He wants to save the world. We don't believe this guy. It's always crap. So. It was really, they were speaking like this, I was speaking like this, so we couldn't match. Maybe that's different in the States, I don't know, because we also went to the States afterwards. It was also kind of difficult because everybody thinks in the States it's quite easier, but you also need network in the States, And since we don't have any network, this was maybe the main thing, and also nobody was believing in vision at that time. The market crashed so kind of a lot of times, so everybody was scared.
I guess the new market crash 2004.
Yeah,
so just around when you started.
Yeah, okay. It was kind of simultaneously. So there wasn't kind of risk-taking approach from the ventures.
That's great. And I guess the venture money available in 2004 or 5
was also not enough. No,
probably almost 10x compared to today. I guess something like this, or 5 to 10x.
Yeah.
So you had this like just trying to like move forward. So this part-time position basically at the University of Tübingen, which allowed you to live and to build a company. And I guess you had a bit of research budget attached to it.
Well, not much, but we could use the rooms and the materials from the department.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then how long did you do that? What was the next step then?
So it was, it's when we just talk about successes and missuccesses, I think I can just remember times where I was down, really down, and sleepless nights and things like that. Looking back, I'm wondering myself why I wasn't quitting. Why I was saying, well, I should continue. I think this first step was that we engaged with people. So we had our first people involved in this project, technician and PhD students mainly, so that I had responsibility for this kind of guys. So maybe that was driving me, say, well, I can't now go away. I have to continue because of these guys, at least for 2 years, that they gain their PhD.
Still on the research budget.
Yes, yeah.
I'm trying to find where the money is coming from.
No, it was a U grant at that time, a research grant, so we could engage these PhD students, pay these PhD students, and we have a little money from the young innovators. And we also had a business angel, but he quit CureVac, so he was kind of nasty guy. We also had some funds from the Kreissparkasse, so just loans. We had to pay back. So so it was really a hard time. And if I just thinking back, I just see a lot of negative issues. I don't see really issues where I could jump on. And the only event was really important to us, that we met Friedrich von Bohlen. He was from Divini. It was before he met Dietmar Hopp, and before he did Divini investments. So
Dietmar Hopp, for those who are not German, it's one of the SAP.
Yeah, it's German Bill Gates. Yeah,
German Bill Gates, one of the billionaires.
Yeah, exactly.
Who invested a few billions in
a lot of biotechs. Exactly. But the thing was that Friedrich was before that. So we had somehow our finance manager or finance guy, Wolfgang Klein. He was in the States at a conference. Conference was always a waste of money, but of course we had to go there. And there he met a lawyer, an attorney who worked with Friedrich. Friedrich founded Lion Bioscience, also a company crashed in the market. And then he was saying, well, Wolfgang, get in contact with Friedrich. Friedrich is looking for new things to do. And that was the reason why Friedrich approached to us in CureVac. And without Friedrich, I think we wouldn't have survived at that.
That's amazing.
No, it was really the last, maybe money was just lasting for another 2 or 3 months. And Friedrich then jumped in, and he was the first guy seeing the potential of RNA vaccines, It was... I was talking a lot about it, but this is in my brain is really somehow quite intensely covered. The first meeting of Friedrich, when he just went through the doors, he's going, "Where's the meeting room? I want to sit here." He was quite really.
He's quite an intense person.
Yeah, but he really wanted to hide his emotions. He was really wanting to hide emotions. I saw that, and then I really see this process when I was talking to Friedrich, showing the data, how he's really waking up. His eyes are blinking. And then it was a moment after maybe half an hour of talking that he was really going like this, "Hey, Ingmar, if this really works only half, it will be a revolution of everything in the world." I was like, "Yeah, Friedrich, exactly. That's it. You got it." So there was a first spirit where we have really a synchronized spirit together. And he was like, "Yes, we have to do something. I will invest my private money,
He's quite wealthy as well.
Yeah, he was quite wealthy. He was selling kind of pictures from his grandfathers as our grandfather. And so he had a little money. Maybe he was investing, I don't know how much. It was maybe 100,000 euros, something like that, 200,000. This kind of level, a kind of business angel.
Large angel. But come back to this. Nice.
So I just want to say was the first believer in it. Yeah. The very, very first believer from outside.
It's crazy. It's fascinating to me also how in these moments you have a very little event, or it's a very little thing that makes it.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, Biotech was to say we were 2 months away from bankruptcy, and we had the first lead investor who signed, and Biotech Ventures in Berlin actually. And it made us continue. It's crazy.
And it's
fascinating. And how you cannot plan this.
You can't plan. And it's coming from a source you didn't expect at the beginning. You even didn't know that there's a source or where it comes from. You go to different angles. And I think the only solution thing is really talk to people as much as you can. Go to conferences. Get to connections as many as you can. Maybe that's the only thing. And also undirected connections. Maybe connect with people who are not in your field. Yeah, maybe just people who are interested in how people, maybe they connect to you to another guy who they know, and this guys maybe then make the difference. Yeah.
We can talk about the lesson and the lessons. And I mean, one thing I wrote down that we will come back later is I think you had this perseverance. Remember we're talking about perseverance to like go this extra step, go this like first to start, and then these like extra 6 months, extra 12 months, and push it to the limit of the limit. And that's when you met the right person, and then it took off. And when it's working, we'll talk also about it. It's a personal experience there. But let's talk. So then Friedrich from Modern Science, the first check basically. This allows you to incorporate to hire first employee. What were from a timeline? What's covered?
Right. At least it allowed us to build a GMP lab, clean room area in the new technology park, where we were the first in this technology park. So this was also a misfortune for Tübingen, because they built they did a lot of investments in biotech, and especially the building, and there was nobody there coming into that, So
this was good for you.
It was good for us actually, because everything broke down. Only we were left there, and we got a little money from Friedrich so that we could then trying to get this GMP lab running, which was a prerequisite for clinical trials. Without that, you can't do clinical trials. So we need this GMP facility. So it was the first GMP process on RNA, we have to say, in the world. So
and this just from I'm curious on this 100K check. I mean, from a valuation point of view as well, he took significant stake, I guess. Let's say.
I don't remember much. Of course, he was taking some shares, but on the other hand, the worth of the company was close to nothing.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of first patents, but also not granted. So it was just applied.
Okay.
So the value was close to nothing. So therefore, it was okay for us. That
but then still 100,000 euro from personal is quite a lot. So from a compared to company, there was.
So I forgot about how much he get, but of course he gets some significant amounts from this company.
Yeah. And just curious on what was the stage of the company. You said you did have a patent granted. I guess you had the paper, you had the team, you had the vision, and then you had some mouse data basically, so animal data.
Yeah, we had animal data, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a kind of seed stage.
Seed stage.
Yeah.
And then, just from also from the audience, I think, to understand where was the science. And then you got that lab, and then it allowed you to do GMP, I guess, go closer to humans.
That was important. Also, we did some adaptation of the RNA research. So we found ways how to stabilize the RNA, to encapsulate the RNA. Also sequence-dependent modifications on the RNA, no chemical modifications, but sequence modification, which also increased the expression and stability of RNA. So these were our first patents on that. So it was also kind of great thing that the research was ongoing. It wasn't just on this GMP things, how to get to the clinic, but also our mindset was that we want to drive this technology forward and find really solutions to stabilize this molecule.
I mean, you needed this technology as well.
Yeah.
To make it work in
of
clinics.
Course. Of course, yeah.
I mean, I remember even looking forward.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the work was done on the encapsulation.
Yeah.
On the modification to make it more stable. I mean, it's huge challenges as well.
Yeah. No, a real breakthrough for us was the GC enrichment, so guanosine or cytosine basis.
Yeah.
Because they're bound together with 3 hydrogen bonds against A and U. And so chemically, this GC enhancement was stabilizing the RNA very much. So this was our first patent, which was so important to us. And I haven't seen that before, so we were the first doing this approach. Yeah.
And this was, I guess, still around that.
So this gives also
a
unique selling proposition, because now we had a kind of patents, which was important for investors as well, that there were patents protecting this technology.
And then, going towards like 2010, what was a step, I guess, that allowed you then to have a bit more, let's say, data, so ability to raise money, and then
of course. So after Hoerr was investing, we didn't have to raise any more money. So it was there.
Can you tell a bit more about this? I mean, what happened to this fundraising for Hoerr to invest?
So
timeline.
It was kind of a complete switch of the company. After we got the money from Dietmar Hopp, we reinvented ourselves to a real biotech company with a lot of resources and a lot of money to hire the right people, also to conduct clinical studies. This was very important, also to work more on these technology things, to work more on the GMP. Before that, we also were doing service business. We like you guys, we really want to get money from the market, selling RNA at that time, but it was also too early because nobody was using RNA, so it was kind of useless. So we got one guy from a university, I think in Würzburg, or I don't know, this kind of guy who ordered some RNA, which was then okay for us because we got a little money, but it wasn't really a real business issue.
You pay some bills.
But you can see, we were really looking on another angle on things, how we can get money into this company, how to buy machines and things like that from customers' money, for example, yeah. And this also was kind of professionalizing ourselves because now we had to do project management. Now we do have to reimbursement things, thinking about quality, which wasn't a part in the very early startup days. We weren't thinking a lot on quality or on customer issues. So maybe this was also driving us more into kind of more professionalized business in the beginning.
I have to take a tangent, but that. Talking about service, I mean, when we started at Biotech, and you will talk maybe more, but you were organizing this mRNA conference was Moderna and BioNTech, and one was in Berlin, and Pharma were very interested in mRNA, but they needed some people to kind of see what was happening there and telling them. And actually, we usually didn't do any service, but one Pharma offered us so much money that we did the service. This is partly what helped us survive. So,
it was the RNA field, really good.
Yeah, I don't remember how much they paid us. Like something like,
glad to hear it.
A few thousand. It was like something like 5,000 to 10,000 euro just to report on the conference, which basically organized and was before we had any money. So you also helped us get this a service, which is actually crazy.
Yeah, it's really to see it now.
The world is really small. Actually.
Yeah. You really see it now how vibrant is this conference with a lot of people from all over the world, especially from Asia, sitting there and writing.
We'll talk about this as well, on how that's also fascinating how you managed to like be in a friendly competition with the other field and how it contributes to the whole field and to also solving the pandemic. But I think this will be a few steps ahead, but it was just a kind of a side note. I think maybe also some takeaways even today for entrepreneurs, even in biotech. I mean, service can maybe distract you a bit, but doing it a bit when it's very well paid, sometimes it helps you. Cash is cash and cash is king, especially in the early days. So I think it's also...
Especially being professional, if you don't have any contacts to customers, you're kind of messy. Yeah? If you just write reports for projects, things like that, it's not a real business.
And just writing an invoice, and your actual company making money. I mean, that's still, you need to make money too.
You have to satisfy customers, to be very careful in treating customers. And I think this helps you really to be out of your bubble of startups. And if you can succeed in the Berlin environment, for example, there are a lot of startups, they're really in a bubble. They're just together with themselves, they have venture rounds, they invest money into the future, but they don't really have attachment to any customers demand. That's a real issue in my eyes.
Yeah, we can. I will write that down to talk a bit further, even in biotech and stuff. But let's get back just from a chronologically to the timeline. So I mean, you said he invested significantly. So it was Friedrich, because Friedrich Boll ended up working with him. So what was the story there, and then how much he invested?
Yeah, so when Friedrich started with ourselves, he took his own money, and then there was a coincidence which was really helpful for the biotech in Europe, that he met with Dietmar Hopp, and Dietmar Hopp was saying, well, I'm interested in biotech, but I don't know anything about it. Can you help me about it? How to find investments, things like that. So Divini was founded a couple of months later, when after Friedrich invested ourselves in our company. So therefore, it was clear that Friedrich presented our company to Dietmar Hopp, and we also went there doing face-to-face with Dietmar Hopp, and which was also
one of their first investments.
It was one of the first, or it was the first investment actually. Maybe Heidelberg Pharma was the same time. I think this was the reason why Dietmar Hopp was interested in biotech, because there was a Heidelberg company. He was approached by this company, and then he was asking Friedrich whether he could help him. Yeah, and I like always the personal interaction with investors, and especially with investors who were investing by themselves or who were building companies by themselves.
This we can talk also further. It's quite unique actually to have in the world / especially in Europe. It's quite unique actually.
It's unique, yeah.
A billionaire like Hoerr invest in CureVac, and that another two billionaires invest in BioNTech.
Yeah.
It's very unique. It's very interesting actually.
Looking back, I always failed with professional venture companies. I couldn't really get these guys trusting in our technology, trusting in me. There were always a lot of things or risks they see in us. There was a reason why they didn't take risk by themselves, although they're kind of risk investors, venture capitals. And the only guys I got a match was guys who were building themselves something like Friedrich, his own company, or Dietmar Hoerr, or Bill Gates, or Elon Musk. So these guys, it's I don't wanna sound selfish somehow, but sitting in front of kind of these guys, you really feel kind of flow, and energy flowing. So then there's not only about risks, not only about money, there's really about how you want to build, how you want to change the world, what do you really do changing things, how you can make this happen. And they believe little more in the visions than just, in kind of the booklets you write about technology. And it was always a kind of talk about vision. When I was talking to Dietmar Hoerr, it was about a vision that we can do kind of IT business in terms in biotech. RNA is kind of code. Yeah. So it's kind of SAP of biotech thing, and this was great because now we had kind of communication on a level he was into. Yeah, this is always good if you can get in this kind of level where they feel competent in asking questions.
That's amazing. This definitely listed as well to go back to, because I think it's a huge topic. But yeah, I mean, you was basically super lucky that you met Friedrich, that Friedrich met with Hoerr, that Hoerr invested. I mean, you don't have like 10 Hoerrs in Germany and Europe, and still lots. So
it was really lucky.
Kind of a perfect fit for CureVac.
Yeah.
And then how much he invested? You remember?
Kind of millions, but I don't know.
Dozens of billions.
Now it's about more than billions. Talking about at that time, maybe 10 millions was already a lot of money. Yeah. So kind of 5 to 10 billion. But at that time it was wow. It was a huge investment for us.
So it made you go from very lean 100K investment to 10 million to really building. Can you go a bit about this and what was the next kind of big milestone, next big inflection point?
Well, I think as we told to Dietmar Hoerr that we wanted to achieve clinical data. That's important to see the proof of principle or concept of this technology. Therefore, we were really investing into clinical trials at that time in melanoma and also other cancer diseases like prostate at that time, which of course was hard. And we didn't have in focus any vaccines, and I think maybe this was a mistake. But we were trained like that nobody was interested at that time in vaccine development. Everything was there already. So why we should invest with this kind of novel technology in vaccines? So we also did some flu things, universal flu, flu shot lasting for 5 to 10 years. It was also, I think, this was the only one vaccine project where we're into. But it was always...
You did a bit, but on the side, basically.
It was just on the side, was also kind of proof of principle to get some data that you can induce immune responses and things like that. It was helpful. But in terms of the cancer diseases, it is really hard. It's really hard to see any effect because the patients, they all treated, they're in the end of their diseases. You can't approach the kind of fresh patients. Patients, they're at the early stage of their cancer.
You're always on second.
So therefore, they couldn't really induce any immune response anymore because the body was somehow pumped with a lot of chemotherapeutics and radioactive things. So this was, looking back, this was a kind of big mistake.
So you struggled in oncology to really get immune response? And at the same time,
we got immune responses. That was feasible, but we didn't see a clinical effect. That was the issue. Yeah.
And maybe so from a timeline, just can you walk more like a milestone wise? I mean, what you had your phase 1, then you did the early phase 2. I guess that's where you had some results. But just from a timeline, where were we? Was it up to? I mean, I guess past 2010, 2000, so somewhere there.
Well, I think the first trial there were investigator trials from the university clinic. Yeah. So we just supplied them the material, GMP material, so they do it by themselves.
Okay.
Without this approval things. So a kind of Heilversuch, which was at that time possible at the university, with a few patients. So this was the first ever shot in a human, maybe about 2005, something like that.
Okay.
And only Steve, or at that time our CSO, was shooting himself, but it was kind of illegal thing.
Okay, so that's not.
I think it's in his leg.
He was. I think I saw a LinkedIn post of him that he was the first. So he was an injected patient.
He was the first, not patient. He was a volunteer.
Well, like
for the first human.
Human.
So the first human thing. Yeah. So this was. But you can't do it professionally like that. It's not possible. So it was kind of a startup atmosphere at that time. No, but somehow this was helpful for us that we could access patients through the university without any professional approval, which was done afterwards. Yeah, and then I think our first trial was with melanoma on prostate carcinoma, I think. So. But as I said, the issue is that you don't get any clear results. So if you just look on survival data, it's hard to see a difference because there's no control.
Yeah. And so, so then at that time, and the team was built up, I mean, Curious actually to go also a bit on the team, but I remember then up to, I mean, you had finance, basically evergreen, massively financed, which is, I mean, an amazing position to be in. And then I remember, is that what you're referring to? I mean, in oncology, you had basically let's say, negative phase 2 with very little efficacy. Yeah. You announced it at the JP Morgan.
Yes.
I remember we actually interviewed you.
Yeah.
And this was 2016 something, somewhere, 2017, somewhere around there. Okay. And then how like, I mean, that's a big setback. So how did you bounce off from that?
Well, actually, because of our investors, I think Divini was really into that, and they had no doubt that it will be successful. Just the thing is how it will be successful and when it will be successful. And also in the market was bullish because there was Moderna out there. There was BioNTech out there. They get heavily funding from a lot of things. So I think there was no doubt out there anymore that the vaccines or the RNA will work in some of the diseases. Yeah. So therefore, it wasn't a real setback with Divini at that time. It was kind of learning curve. Also, Friedrich was telling, it's normal. You have to learn from this. It
cannot hit it from the first shot.
He always looked on Genentech. It was a big thing for him, the Genentech story, and how often they failed.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, he says, well, it's biotech that you have to fail. And also, we got DARPA funding at the time before from the military in the States, where we had our counterpart from DARPA sitting on the table. We went there for the first meeting with a lot of results, and he was listening 5 minutes, saying nothing, and then he was just bumping on the table, say, well, stop this shitting up here. I want to see our misfortunes, what failed. I want to know what failed, not what was going well.
Okay.
Just switch.
That's crazy.
Because if you just tell me what's going well, it shows that you don't go to the borders. Yeah. You don't go close to failure. And we at DARPA, we want to see failures. We want to go down. You want to see the edges. What's the capabilities of this technology? This is what we want. That's the reason why we invest money.
Wow.
So there was a really flip. So it wasn't it, and then clear. But
you're a different mindset.
But it's the right mindset. Actually, that's the right mindset, really. And when we started the EIC, European Innovation Council, I was also now coming from this DARPA perspective, saying, well, DARPA really want to see misfortunes, they want to see failures and want to analyze that, and they want to learn from that, you know. And we also have in Europe, we have to get the same spirit, the American spirit, that we talk also about, or we have to talk about failures first before we talk about achievements. So, and this was kind of really important story to me, that we also invented it into the company, that we really want to go to the edges. And if we have misfortune, we say, well, yeah, of course, but somehow it's also a good sign that we tested really in a way that we know this way is maybe blocked. We have to go the other way. So therefore, also now coming back to your questions about the misfortune in the trial, it was the same thing that we say, well, yeah, so it's not going this way, but nevertheless we tried again the other angel now. Yeah.
So, I mean, I actually remember reading how you announced the news. It was very, very different actually from many biotech companies, where most biotech companies, especially European ones, will try to hide or fail the phase 2. Like there will be no press release or like press release, but like, and you were actually super open about it, and you took the call, announced it, and really explain why. It's okay, this was one hypothesis, and now we know what not to do, and we have other hypotheses, and we will explore it. That's I mean, makes a lot of sense. I didn't know the what is your mindset, but it makes
it was really it wasn't really a kind of marketing campaign. You say, well, just to try to be open, and then it's not that harsh anymore. It was really coming from our mindset at the company, trained by DARPA, that you have to envisage this kind of failure things, and talking about that, and really also try to talk to the public, that other companies learn from this as well. Yeah, open your data, that others can look at the data, and that the field can learn from it. Yeah. And this was also the reason from the RNA Health Conference that we thought at that time, you know, we had to be open with a lot of things, because we want to get the field revolutionize the world. So that was the reason why we did it. Yeah.
We'll get back to. I want to still finish the also the CureVac, or wrap up the CureVac story. One part also was with pharma partnerships. You started having partnerships. I think I wrote down 2014. You had I think it was a deal with Boehringer, with a 35 million upfront. I guess at that time, I mean, Moderna signed a huge deal with AstraZeneca. I think with Alexion as well. I mean, you started to have some pharma interest, and I believe also it helped a lot that other companies signed deals, helped you, and everyone basically benefited from it. Can you go a bit in that also, in how pharma started to be interested, and how it helped you, or how was the collaboration there?
When we needed Pharma at the beginning, Pharma was not there. We could have learned a lot from these guys, you know. We had to build up everything by ourselves with no guidance, or if we had to get guidance, we had to pay them with a lot of money. So this is a bit weird that we weren't accessible to Pharma, and even, you know, the deals would have been quite inexpensive for Pharma at the beginning. You know, they could have get a lot of upsides from it, even technology transfer. So if Pharma would have jumped in 2010 on RNA technology, they would be number one, even more than Moderna, because Pharma has the potential and the money and and
they would have paid 5 times less, but
50 times less, 50 times less. So, but the same was with Boehringer. It's a kind of different mindset, we have to say, you know, and this was kind of challenging for both of us, you know, that Pharma is used to invest in programs where they see a kind of step-by-step progress. Yeah. And then they define really things. If we see no result here, then we stop it. Mm-hmm. And they don't go the way around like DARPA, you know, say, well, it's fine, you stop it here, but go this way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when we talked to management of Pharmas, it was always this kind of thinking in that we have to fulfill this milestone, and then if they don't reach the milestone, we stop these things. And from a very young technology where you don't have a lot of data, it's not feasible to do it like that. You have to be kind of open and seek for solutions if things are not going well, how we can solve it together and get expertise from both angles at the table. This wasn't the case somehow. So I've never seen a kind of solution-seeking table where a lot of experts were sitting talking about a problem. It was only one-to-one. Some kind of project leader from the pharma say, well, this is bad news, guys. I'm quite sorry. We can't go further like that. I think we have to cease now. We have to close the project. So, and I think this was a kind of really big issue for pharma that they're not prepared for this kind of new technologies, how to handle this kind of technology. Because they come from their existing collaborations with other pharmas, or with university grants, where you have a grant structure and then you get the data. And in the end, nobody cares about the data anymore, This is always like that. Somebody started something, and then 3 years later, nobody knows about why we started this kind of thing.
Sounds like some frustration and
no, it's not a real frustration.
And critique on the system.
I'm not frustrated with farmers because
it's just how it is.
Like Pfizer, BioNTech. Pfizer started when things were already done from BioNTech. Then Pfizer was jumping in. The kind of mindset of farmers that they don't want to take risk. They don't want to do this research at the beginning from things. They want to get already digested things, proven things, and then they pay a lot of money for that. They're prepared to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, that's definitely. We could have a deeper. I mean, I did it as talking about pharma on the later point as well, but yeah, I have some thoughts there also, just maybe from observing. Maybe we can take it after, but basically, I mean, just to still try to get on that timeline and get to the, let's say, to today. I mean, after that, going to 2020 before the pandemic, was any like milestone between the phase 2 setback and the start of the pandemic?
I think flu was quite working well.
Yeah.
So because flu, the universal flu thing was a big topic. I think was the biggest one in the vaccine field.
Yeah.
Rabies was also something because we wanted to learn from rabies. So we CureVac at that time, which was no, it's not anymore we. CureVac got data which was kind of encouraging and continuing this track before the pandemic. That was also the reason why it was possible to jump also for BioNTech to jump on these vaccine things, because everybody was working on that before.
Yeah. I guess also that's, I think, very important to mention as well before the pandemic. I mean, basically, let's say roughly from 2015 to 2020, there's starting to be a huge interest in mRNA, the potential. There was huge investments. People started to really believe it. I mean, that's also, just from a context, really you want there. And then, because the pandemic hits, can you then walk through that? I mean, it was clear that mRNA could be one of the solutions.
Yeah.
So what happened then?
What's clear to everybody for us in the companies that now we have to jump on this COVID things. Well, in my case, I was already in the on the board and Aufsichtsrat.
Yeah.
So I wasn't anymore really in the operative mode in the company. And after this
when did you step down operational?
I think in 20 or 19 or
okay, just before.
Yeah.
And I don't. Okay, when
then,
that's.
And then there was Dan Manugella coming from the US.
What happened actually for this? Why did you step down operationally?
No, because I wanted to step down because I want to overlook things more on a different angle. I don't want to be in the day-to-day business anymore.
Okay.
I did it a long time, and the investors agreed to do that. So I was then leading the board.
Okay, so chairman, and you're the American CEO.
And then it was American,
Boston.
because there was also something that people were thinking, well, it's important to have the American spirit into the company, which can be good or not good. As a German company, we have to say, well, it's maybe not always working as you think about, But it was also kind of influenced by Friedrich. He went to Boston. He stayed there, I think, 3 years with his family there, running business from there, from the Boston area side. And he was really keen about it, how the American spirit is threading things, working things together. And so we thought, well, there's maybe something good in CureVac, that we also get a kind of American spirit into the company. But I think it's kind
American global. I mean, Boston is American, but also global.
Exactly,
It's a hot center. Super complex.
Exactly.
We can discuss
you get a lot of peers there. You get also kind of people can hire in the company. But the traction was in Tübingen and not in Boston, and that's maybe one of the important things, that the CEO always has to be there where the technology is going forward or is evolved, and not sitting somewhere where maybe the clients are sitting or customers are sitting.
Yeah.
So there was a big issue, and this was a reason why I was then proposed to be again the CEO, because I have to be on the spot. That was also the reason. It was not really a kind of misfunction or something like malfunction because media were reporting that he met Trump, things like that. Trump wanted to buy CureVac and things. This wasn't really the reason why we decided I have to go back, because I was in the technology and I was at the hotspot in Tübingen. So if I wouldn't have done it, somebody else would have done it in Tübingen. So this was.
But it was true. This Trump story. There was some truth.
No. Trump is, as you know, and as everybody knows now today, Trump is talking a lot nonsense. It was kind of also nonsense there, because the main investors in CureVac was still Hoerr, and Hoerr would never have sold the company to the States. It's complete nonsense.
Okay. I mean,
but for the press, it was of course a great story.
Sad, because it's a lot of noise and a lot of distractions.
But if you especially if you think about the wealth and the built environment, they need this kind of stories. That's their life, so they jump on it, and that's okay. Well, yeah,
we could talk about media critics, but I think that's a deeper topic.
Yeah.
But and so you wanted to come back, or you were called back from operational as a CEO.
And one day before I was nominated officially as CEO, I had this aneurysm in Berlin. So I was
almost passed away on the job.
Almost passed away.
Crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. Yeah.
I remember you telling me about it last year when we caught up, and I was like, just wow, you just told me that's 13% survival rate, which is basically a miracle that we are.
It's a miracle sitting, yeah. Or that in this condition, as I am, I could have been in a wheelchair. So it's it's. But somehow I accept it. It's kind of my life,
Can you talk a bit more, maybe about for the audience as well, for what was what happened, what were the reasons, and a bit what happened?
Well, a lot of things were coming together to one spot on the 13th of March in 2020 in Berlin, or when I got this aneurysm in a hotel room in the early morning, and I was then rescued by my assistant, Marina. She phoned to the hotel that I'm not in the plane, so they should look after me, and then they found me in the room, unconscious. So, wow. So yeah, and before that, so things were really happening on the private side. I wanted to go with my family on a boat, so we bought a boat already, and we were in the boat show in Düsseldorf, in a big conference or mess trade fair. And then I get a phone call from Berlin, and they told I should come to Berlin. We should speak about the COVID things. And so then I flew a couple of days later to Berlin. And I had a lot of struggles with my wife, saying, "What does this mean? You want to go back to come back as a CEO? But what about us as family? we thought that we do this family event now. And I say, well, I have no choice. And then she was really angry with me.
Yeah.
So I also kind of lost my family trust. And then I was in Berlin speaking about rescue of the world, somehow like that. You know, what you can do to rescue to rescue Germany and Europe from this COVID pandemic. And altogether, that's how I can see it now. You know, it was too much for me. It was too much for a human person like me. And so it must bump. And then my body tell me, no, it's enough for you. You know, it can't go further like this. So
crazy.
Yeah. So this was, and for me, it was my biggest issues in life, much bigger than everything else. So it was a real fight again. And as I told you already, I fought a lot of battles in my life, but no battle that was so important as this one.
But you made it. I mean, from some interviews, you said you were 3 months in coma at the Charité, the big hospital in Berlin, and then in rehab for many months at the lake in Constance Lake.
Lake Constance,
correct. Which is, I mean, many months. But then you really recovered, and now I mean, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
which is remarkable. I mean, it's just really miracle level, like.
Yeah. And it was always in my mind to come back to CureVac. It was also maybe something which protected me from dying or giving up. That I say, well, I want to go back and working on this RNA space further. But then I recognized also in the rehab, in rehab. That's I'm not the same guy in logical thinking anymore as before, you know, and it's hard really to go back into this really big job where I have a lot of responsibility, and this was making me thinking about, can I really take this responsibility? I'm really the guy for this, you know. And I also wanted to avoid that it comes a second time like this. So then I really had to change, and then I decided, no, I don't go back to CureVac. This was the decision.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean...
And also, you know, and also I also was tried to involve me in this company, but I also see kind of hesitations of the company side that they want me letting involved much. So
I can imagine. I mean,
they always say, well, we are no stock noted, you know, we are on the NASDAQ, we can't tell you. And of course I appreciate, but on my founder brain, you know, I think, well, you can't tell me, you know, I don't tell to others. You know, we can do a confidentiality thing, you know, and there was no, we can't tell you about it. So this was also annoying a bit for me, saying, well, okay, if you don't tell me, then if you can't tell me, that's okay, I have to accept it. But then I also am not going to involve myself in this further things.
Okay, so you were, even if you were not, if you already said you wouldn't be CEO, you were trying to help them basically, and they basically.
I was proposed to come back in the board, you know, not as chair, but a board seat, which I was thinking, okay, that could be something. But on the other hand, as I told you already, things were already happening when I was in coma, things I couldn't change anymore. So the track was already there. They had to go this track. And I said, well, this is hard to take also from the board seats perspective, responsibilities for decisions. I wasn't there. And it's quite a hard thing. And so then I was really thinking about, is this reflecting my personality? You know, I'm a kind of direct guy. I'm speaking directly with people. Am I really made for a kind of board position where I have to be silent, where I can't talk to people? Well, this is a management task.
You cannot do the things.
I can't do the things.
You cannot do things.
And also in the board, there were a lot of mindsets of people. Yeah, there were pharma guys doing a lot.
Board things. So you have 10 people in board.
10 people. There were things from investor perspective. it was also a big task when I was a chairman to guide all these guys and find common solution. What was our decision now, how we should do that, a consensus. And thinking about the things and about my experiences in both parts, the CEO part, also in the board part, I was thinking this is maybe too much for me. And it's maybe not my life anymore, and I have to accept that there's a new stage in my life where I have to do different things.
I mean, I can relate and understand it. As in, I mean, it's partly trauma, partly burn, partly there's a lot of fear involved, and also, I mean, what you just discussed was your personal situation, personal family. You wanted to take care of your family. It must be really hard, really, really tough decision, actually, I can imagine. But it sounds like you've really accepted it and digested it, which is also, I guess, very hard as well. I mean, from a founder, it's great. I mean, building a company, it's what we usually say, that like baby. I mean, that it's like our baby, but it really is like this. There's just a really deep attachment, emotional attachment, but also more than emotion. I mean, emotional attachment, but on many, many levels. And I can imagine for you, from like basically almost 20 years, must be like even harder to take that decision and accepting. But that's well.
But it helped me a bit that I was at a board perspective, so that I was a chairman at the board, so I wasn't doing any operative things. So therefore, I think that was already kind of leading in the right direction. So it would have been much harder when I was in a CEO position. So it wasn't a CEO position actually.
Yeah, I guess
it helped a lot.
You already had well, but still, because that's right. Just to finish the story, so then basically your CEO, Franz Werner, then took over basically as CEO and then tried to develop through the pandemic. I mean, then we know the story now, basically. I mean, CureVac probably did less well or didn't manage to or at least Moderna and Pfizer and BioNTech. I don't know, one is not necessarily the right term, but at least from a commercial point of view, probably one. And I guess on that, you mentioned in a few interviews as well, there are some choices made at CureVac that were going for different priorities. Let's say from the RNA, the vaccine stability at 4 degrees versus -80, and that this would be easier to distribute, and especially distribute in high urban, in less developed countries. What's your reflection there when you look at, when you were not in the driving seat, but when you look at from, let's say, how the whole pandemic period and everything I just said? Like,
well, I can just emphasize what I have done, what I would have done myself when I would have been in the driver's seat. So I would have also gone in the other direction. So not only monodirectional, I would also have used this modified basis, since there was success on CureVac side on this. I was negotiating myself years back that CureVac can obtain a license for the pseudouridine modification. Yeah. So for sure, the common sense for me, it's clear that you have to go in both ways, especially if you know that your competitors were doing the same. Mm-hmm. So BioNTech was also using non-modified RNA as a kind of control thing. So I would have done a kind of control with modified RNA, and then in phase 1, seeing what's going the better way. Mm. So the thing is not this technology itself, the thing is the immunogenicity. So RNA is kind of very immune, because it's clear the body reacts quite in a danger manner if RNA is going into it, because the body thinks it's kind of virus approaching the body. So therefore you get a lot of danger signals activated in your immune system. And it is clear that there was a reason why Katalin Karikó was inventing that, because they want to avoid this danger signal. They want to use RNA for kind of therapy, not for vaccines, so for more kind of molecular therapy things, kind of EPO, things like that, insulin, things like that. So, and in the tests, for BioNTech. I'm quite sure that they tested also non-modified RNA, and they see, well, the modified one, you can get higher dosages, which is important to raise immune responses.
Yeah.
So there was, there was less dose limitation as CureVac. They couldn't go into higher doses, and they saw it already in phase 1. And my question is,
But I mean that, okay. So
I can't have more. I can just say what I said. I say, well, I would have questioned that. Yeah.
What I hear is, I mean, that's what you would have done, which I hear. But if I rephrase it, the right direction, the right decision, at least to make it fast, was not the one basically, or was using unmodified RNA. That's what Moderna or BioNTech did, and that allowed them to go really fast.
Yeah.
And they also went all in. I mean, this was, when I read, it was crazy to even start phase 3 right away, and
it's clear,
and go crazy fast. But this was also, I mean, from any point of view, I mean, was insanely, just worked. I mean, if I hear it,
and I also regard it not as a mistake. It's more kind of missed option in my eyes, because now they do it again. They do it also now. Maybe even COVID is not an issue anymore, but they do it also with modified RNA. It kind of was a missed opportunity. CureVac was also fast, and they believed in their technology, what they invented for years, even what I invented together with CureVac. And I'm not really criticizing to focus on that. The only thing is I speak about a missed opportunity, that at least a small angle in the trial you could have done with modified things of control sense. And then seeing the data in the humans, you might have switched them.
Yeah.
And after phase 1, when they see the dose limitation issues, there could have been a point where they could have turned to the approach of BioNTech, and this was kind of missed.
Yeah, I mean, the wording of what is a mistake or missed opportunity, or I mean,
because it's hard to criticize.
I mean,
the guys I'm not into. You know, I can criticize my own decisions. That's right, but I can't.
Even without criticism, I think just from a observation, just from a factual observation.
Fact of observation.
Because they were not doing, because they didn't go there.
Yeah.
Others were faster, and at the end, led to the market. I mean, without then it's very hard to say, would you have taken that decision or not? I mean, in the moment, very hard.
It's really
a lot of pressure, but just in the backside, when you look at it, the fact is,
and now it's easy to see what would have been decided and not. It's not easy really if you're really into this war thing. Yeah.
What I heard, what I liked your reflection a lot. Also, one I think was an interview, Spiegel interview in German that they told you, like, did you have any regret or anything that at the end BioNTech or Moderna made much more money than CureVac, and the first thing you said was we solved the pandemic. And congrats to Hoerr, to Stefan, to Ursula. I mean, and it's also true at the end, if you talk about from a vision point of view, I mean, the most important is still curing patients, solving the pandemic, and so maybe you can go there. I mean, and even when you just arrived, you said that's you have admiration for them, and I find that amazing to not forget what's the end goal versus being in a race for a race and making the most money or beating someone else. I mean, at the end, the goal is still to reach. So can you expand a bit there? I found that very, human, very having the priority straight, and very Can you expand?
Well, it's more about this technology. I'm an RNA guy, and therefore also I invented the acronym mRNA people, or the RNA people, CureVac, because from the very beginning I was kind of RNA guy, RNA people. So because it was a forgotten molecule, and I told you already about the situation 20 years back. It was really a forgotten molecule. And so I'm really more into this molecule. I really I'm so proud on this molecule also, that RNA can fulfill so many issues. Health we had so long, and especially the cancer thing. I'm really optimistic that RNA will not really cure cancer. It's hard to say about cure cancer, but at least to help together with other technologies that you can live with cancer a longer time.
Okay.
And I think I'm so sure about RNA will do a lot of here in this kind of space and sense. And this I like very much, especially if you really see the hurdles at the beginning, that people, they didn't believe you. You were thrown away by a lot of people, and you were regarded as a complete mad guy. If you can just see, well, now the vision is really getting into reality. It's not anymore vision; it's reality already now. And this makes me really happy and strong. And I don't really determine between BioNTech, Moderna, or CureVac. It's the RNA field.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great wrap up on the whole mRNA CureVac story. And then we have a lot of topics we can jump on. I forgot to mention as well, but you are not attached to CureVac anymore.
No.
You have sold your shares, I guess. And
we still have shares and options, but we sold some of this, yeah.
And you personally actually made very well. I mean,
well, it's not, as I said, it could have been much more, but I'm quite humble, and I don't need a lot of money for myself. And the rest of the money we are also doing in a foundation. We founded a foundation where we spend the money, so therefore I'm fine, yeah. So I don't, for my happiness, I don't need more money. I have already.
You did. It's not public. It's how many shares you had? I guess this was public.
Yeah, but there are some options as well from the investors, not only the shares. So
options, yeah.
Of course, shares are really diluted, very, very much.
I guess you were at 2-3% at the end or something.
Maybe even lower than that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the typical biotech CEO, the many rounds things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when you have enough to live with all the family and do the foundation work.
Yeah.
Maybe we can finish there as well on the foundation. I mean, you're doing the foundation and profit work, and as you said, reinvesting from the CureVac shares, and a lot in the developing worlds. Can you touch a bit there, and I would touch a bit on what you are doing. And why you are doing that versus other things you could be doing.
Yeah, I'm a kind of founder, or not a kind. I'm a founder, and I'm a startup guy. So therefore, that's my really self in this space, and I missed it a long time. Not being anymore in this kind of startup atmosphere where you can really sniff and see what you do. You see the effect already coming to you. And you also interact directly with people. You're into projects as well. This wasn't the case in CureVac. And that's something okay, yeah. Also the criticism that a founder of a startup is maybe not really the CEO in the future. And like this, just Hoerr is one of example that it's possible doing like that. But maybe also because he wasn't really a founder like us in the very beginning, because he was much better equipped than we were, and he also had his position at the university, both possibilities. So he wasn't really jumping on one, saying, "Well, I'm doing this." And he was also kind of secured, having his university job. It's different. So it's different. For me, it's really important that I really get this founder experience, touch and feel. And this is the Morphin Foundation.
So more for you investing in founders, but non-profit.
No. We are not investing in founders. We are investing in projects and health projects. And I'm also very happy that my co-founder Florian von der Möbe is there as well, and his wife. That we do a kind of new foundation, another foundation, as we did it already in the past with CureVac. And we are more interested into projects, health-related projects, like water, for example. India, there are kind of water monitoring projects where you can also find germs like COVID in water, analyzer, for example. And also happy to use my old contacts in the area and space and bring people together, speaking to each other. This is something which I like very much. We are kind of catalysts and doing options. And this we're doing quite well, in my opinion, that we find solutions which weren't there before. So it's not just only because of money. We give money to something. We also give knowledge into projects we know about a lot.
And so just from today, I mean, how much are we talking about? How many projects? How much money has been donated? Like just from a rational situation. I mean, you started 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, 1.5 years ago. Yeah. Actually, the foundation it's much less than we expected because we thought CureVac is doing much better. So this is. But on the other hand, as I said, I have all money I wanted. It's just the money going to the foundation, and it's depending on the stock exchange and CureVac how much money can go into this foundation. But even with less money, we were doing, as I told you already, we're doing kind of meaningful things which are not only dependent on money, which are also depending on knowledge. Also, in the other part, in the cultural part, my wife is doing together with Florian's wife. There's also a lot of engagement since from her experience at the Opera in Stuttgart, where she was involved. That they engage personally into the things, and going with children from schools in kind of problematic environments, and trying really to find out how you can help the self-confidence of children, how you can build on this and doing culture things. So what I want to go in basic that we want to involve ourselves in these projects, and we doing some meaningful here as well. It's not just the money. Money helps us, for sure. But the most thing is really that we want to fulfill our own knowledges into different subjects. We want to bring it back to the society.
On that, I mean, I remember we talked 1 year ago, and still was one point I challenged you a bit, but I would still challenge you, and I'm still like, the subject puzzles me a bit. I mean, not whether it puzzles me. I don't know how to express what's the best emotion, what's the best word, but I mean, with your experience and with your history, as in being a let's say visionary founder, believing in new technology, and with the struggle you had there, I can see a perfect fit for you to also help, let's say, next generation of certain founders. I mean, investing or not, with grants or not, or helping or not, but I can see a lot, and I can see that as a big missing area, let's say in Germany or in Europe, where you have really successful founders, CEOs, company builders in biotech who give back and who help the next generation. And so I really like it's a bit why is Ingmar not doing, especially with your co-founder from Moderna and co-founder from CureVac, Florian. I mean, you're two like super solid biotech guys. Why you're doing a bit more to give back in biotech, not to make money, but to help the next generation? Curious.
Well, it's a good point, and this question is obvious. It's it's going the direction that you can't do another CureVac story anymore. It's not possible, and we have seen so many things, and we lost a lot of energy as well. We've even I, for example, lost my life already into this, almost my life into this kind of subject. It's too much personal. It goes too much my personal direction, and I want to avoid that.
Okay.
So therefore, I want to go more in directions where I'm not personally that involved anymore. And also things which are very important is freedom. As I told you, I've never been free in what I was doing over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first thing in my life after being a student, a PhD student, that I'm free again. And attaching it to things where I have to involve myself. And since I invest money, I'm responsible as well for success. That's also kind of hinders me, that I don't want to involve myself again into things where I'm forced to do things I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So from this angle, I think there's coming my kind of pressure, because it's not really related to freedom. It's not really related to my freedom.
But there's no way to find there's no way to find a balance where you still have your freedom.
Not now. Not now. I still, when I just hear myself, I still feel that I like my freedom so much, that I don't want to be really interrupted. It could be that it will change. It could be that I gonna be approached by a very interesting person I like, and with very good opportunity where we might fit together, and I can help. Also, it's dependent how I can help, because my network is not anymore there in the finance way. It's also Divini is not investing anymore, and the other guys I can't approach anymore. I can't approach Elon Musk, for example. I can't write an email to this guy. I can't approach Bill Gates anymore. So I'm not in a position to also open doors for people.
Less position.
No, not only less, and nothing. It's far away, 5 years back that I was really in direct contact with these guys. So it would be an overpromise if somebody now relies on that. Well, Ingmar is interested in me. He will want to help, or he likes to help me. And I can't really fulfill the expectations in me. I have also the feeling, because you're really strong if you're into the field. You're really strong if you know the founders, if you know the investors from a day-to-day basis. If you can really tip people, say, well, hey, I have a hot thing for you. Please look on that. Believe me, look on that, and then we can decide. I can't approach anybody like that. So, and I don't
less.
Or less, yeah. But really. My personal disruption was so big and so high that I didn't have any thoughts about in this kind of area anymore, and I'm not into this area anymore. I have to say, and it's kind of a cut thing. I don't know, some psychological things, that I also want to have this cut, not going back into the things where things were kind of under a lot of pressure. Pressure was then. Getting that high that I was close to death. I don't want to get any more into this pressure type of things. I also want to avoid responsibility. That's also something. I had so much and so many responsibilities in my life that it's also something where I say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm responsible for myself. I really want to take responsibility for myself for the first time after 20 years. So that's kind of, because now I'm reflecting why I'm kind of hesitant in really helping founders and opening doors and things like that. That's some of the reasons that I'm searching my own personality now. I'm still not finished in this kind of process. I really want to look where I want to go, what I want to do. So the next 40 years.
It's a lifetime. It's a life.
So I just take a couple of time. And if people now are hearing that, thinking, well, okay, Ingmar is lost, he would never anymore go into our direction, I'm happy to get in contact with people. Still, I'm happy to get in contact, but I'm not jumping on things and opening myself, say, hey, if you have a great idea, please approach me. I want to help you with things like this. I won't do that. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I understand it's better now. And I mean, the personal fit is just so important as well. If you don't feel like doing something, it makes everything so much harder. I mean, anything in life, I would say, but in work as well. If it's something you feel like, if it's something you don't feel like doing, I mean, for me, the same, I would already not do it. And if there's already like this, like, not sure and not feeling, then it's...
I also want to avoid these problems, because the problems are always the same, failures in essays, not enough money, problems with people in the company. These are all problems I really want to avoid, because it gets me again back into things in my thinkings which were very hard in my life. And you get involved in this kind of thing. So I want to really avoid also as well the dark area in my mind about this kind of things.
Yeah, I see the dark areas, but I see also there can be a lot of bright things. And I mean, from knowing you and from our discussion even now, I can feel like there is just such a deep and breadth and there's also amazing memories and amazing success. I mean, you basically, I don't know to what percentage, but helped solve COVID. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we can talk about cancer, but like what Moderna showed in the trial was the checkpoint inhibitors and having whether it was 30+% increase is insane on cancer, and you were like. You had like a double-digit significant percentage there, which is to me it gives me goosebumps. It's like amazing, and so I would like, but it's a very personal. I mean, I don't know if I feel like it's like a way to like not boost you, but like give you like, but it's I want, I don't know, I feel like I want this, and I feel like you have a lot you can bring, but that's maybe myself, but it's I can and I think you still have like a lot you can bring, and even though for sure probably your network is a bit lower, and I can feel this, I can relate to that as well. I mean, I left Biotech, now I'm starting again back in media after 3 years, and I also felt am I still relevant? Media, the people will trust me, and they do. It's amazing. I mean, you're coming here, we talk a long time to do that interview, to share it with people. First interview was Antoine Pavinic from Sophie Nova. I mean, literally, I wrote him an email, I had like nothing, no product, nothing. Like, hey, Antoine, do you want to do a podcast? And he was like, yeah, let's try it out. I had like the email was 3 lines, nothing, and he took like 1 hour at Sophie Nova's office, and I feel like that's actually really astonishing, and especially in biotech. I mean, we can talk about that further, but I feel like people care a lot, and for the very long term, and people are, I would say, quite more open-minded, and of course forget, but also remember very fast and very rapidly. And maybe it's comes from there as well, that I connect to what you're sharing with it. So I want to share that to you with you. But I feel like I mean, at the end, it's it's your decision, and I think, it's the decision. But I completely understand.
You find a lot of risk takers in this business area. I think that's united everybody, all of us. You don't find these guys sitting in IT or in kind of ordinary branches. So every biotech guy knows about failures, knows about risk taking, knows
amazing.
About data of trials which are not that going the right direction, about how to communicate. So that's our area, actually. We fail, but also we can jump really high on skyscrapers like BioNTech and Moderna. There's nothing in between. You can't be kind of ordinary. Let's increase our business for 5% this year. It's good, or sales increase about 10%. That's great.
10% annually.
And you're really on a skyscraper, or you're down in a deep valley, in a shadow, and you don't really know where to go anymore. So, and these personalities you find in our branch. I don't know any other branch where you get the same personalities, and that makes it kind of interesting, because in your format that you will focus on people, because it's about people. It's really, I really believe that it's of course it's on teams. Teams is really valuable, but it's dependent on personalities of people. And if you look at Stefan Bancel, on the BioNTech guys, Hoerr and Özlem, you find it. You find it there. If you speak to these guys, how this company is going and how this company is operating.
I mean, definitely. I mean, your eyes are shining when you talk about it, which is always a very good sign. I mean, coming back also, I have a bit in a silly, challenging question, but like, bit on this. I mean, you're taking now the time also to share your personal story and your story of CureVac, where you had dark moments, but also, I mean, I'm curious on why do you want to share it with others, for example, or why you are sitting here, basically.
Well, what's deeply in me is just my own living, or where I come from, how I get to this personality I am now today. And that goes into childhood. And when I was in childhood, I had also people, I was looking on them, at them, and I was really fascinated by them. And these were my guides in my life, in my early life. And Neberg, for example, survival, or Hans Hasse, the diver pioneer. These were the guys I wanted to go in the same direction as these guys, and these guys were opening my mind. So I wasn't really in an environment where I had personal interaction with people. They inspired me. I was in a kind of rural area in Germany, in a Realschule, in a middle school, with kind of really ordinary things and not really visionized things. Right. So I was really getting my energies from books, from this kind of people. And the thing is really why I'm open, that I wanna do the same. You know, if somebody is interested in how was Ingmar doing things, or why Ingmar did this kind of things, how he started things like that, and give some inspiration. That's just the reason. It's just because it comes from my own life. And if only one attaches to that, say, well, that's what Ingmar was doing. It's kind of good, and I also want to look at that. Or I'm going the biology direction or biochemistry direction because I liked what they doing. Also Biotech and Moderna, this kind of things. Maybe it attaches me as well. That would be already enough to give inspiration. And I think especially, in our surroundings, where we have a lot of negative influences from a lot of things, climate change, Ukraine, things like that, it's so hard to get inspiration and positive inspiration. Say, well, what shall we do? How we can make things better? And I would just get to this new generation and say, well, it's in your hands. You can change a lot of things. You can do a lot of things which you're good in. Going on your strengths, for example, and that's also important. I learned also in school that you don't really put too much issues on your weaknesses, or put a lot of things that try to enhance, increase to fixing the weaknesses. Go to your strengths, just go to your strengths, and where you're strong, you're happy, and you should fulfill that and go further. Also doing kind of apprenticeship or studies. Just do, even if it's something odd, like Indology or Greek languages, I don't know. Just go in the direction you want to go, and never be shy. And I think this is really important. And in the 80s, I got a book from Rüdiger Neberg. It was the title was "Let's Fets," let's make it happen. And the 80s was also kind of dark ages. I think it was before you.
1991.
Oh yeah. But the 80s, there were kind of dark things. It was kind of East and West conflict, atomic things, atom weapons. So if I remember bad, it was always dark skies. Yeah, never sunny skies. This was somehow the remembrance in the 80s.
And you got a bit of bright light from certain people and inspiration, and this helped you really.
It helped me really to figure out what I'm really into, where I want to go to, and this also gets some push into going to India, for example, in '88 after the school. I went by myself for 3 months to India. Of course, I had to gain money. I have to work on holidays to get money. But then I really went for 3 months to India. Because it was also kind of a Neberg thing, I go into crazy environment. I want to really see how I self will react in this kind of environment. And I still get it today. I still have it in my mind today. These 3 months, they were so impressive for me.
But were like
as a young guy, yeah. It was so impressed, especially this environment. India will never understand. We will never understand. It's so astonishing in this kind of country, which is completely different to Germany. They do everything the other way that the Germans do. Also, having health issues, diarrhea, and things like that. So it really opens the world for you and your eyes. And this was so important for me as a young person to see myself in this kind of new world environment where I had to survive somehow, and where I have to adapt to new things, to a new space, which I'm not used to before. And that gave me strength that I could survive that, and even I liked it very much. Being in the kind of intense situation. And
out of the comfort,
and this inspired me in my whole lifetime, being always out of the comfort and going into really weird situations. Nobody I've been before that in this situation, because it was so inspiring for me. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, the inspiration is also, sharing inspiration I think it's just so important, and sharing knowledge. And I think it's amazing that you're sitting here and taking them to share it. And that's also really one of the goals of the FLOT.BIO show, of really having the most inspiring people in biotech in Europe, and to share inspiration, knowledge, to help the audience grow. And I think it's something that, especially in Europe, especially in biotech in Europe, is done less. And I think that's where also some people enjoy a lot the show and enjoy the episodes. And I think it's just, at least very important. And I enjoy that a lot, actually. I enjoy the interview we're having here, and I enjoy the idea that maybe a few people will benefit from it and will help whatever outcome. I mean, it's from, as you said, like, students who don't know really where they're going, but also professionals, and also even C-levels a lot of C-levels are listening to it, and it inspires them in taking different decisions for the company, or financing it differently, or starting a company, or working for more inspiring, I don't know, that's a bit of judgment, but working for a company that has maybe a bit more vision and impact versus a company that is a bit more safe, or taking more risk. Or I feel like it's very powerful as well. It's gonna be very powerful.
Yeah, and just walking in my shoes, so it's I can't walk in other shoes, so therefore I also can't get any recommendations to somebody. They have to find out by themselves. It's important. It shouldn't do the same as I did. It will be a failure. It has to be really, they have to look into themselves. And also, I think it's very important that, as you know, that you take some time for this. That you're not really completely in the daily work, and you're not really looking further. And I think it's also very important to have reflection zones and reflection times, where you just think about really what is it right? How do it feel? Where I want to go? Am I doing the right things? Or this kind of question marks. This helped me a lot as well. That in India was clear to me that I have to get this kind of times where I just do nothing else than just thinking about these critical questions.
I think it's a great we have topics. I think it's a great transition to continue to a bit on a personal level, a bit on the mindset, personality. On the mindset, I like this like self-reflection / time to think. I think I had one quote. I don't remember who was it exactly. I think it was somewhere connected to Jeff Bezos / some others. So it's like that good thinking takes time, and you cannot think properly without spending or focusing and spending time on the thinking. Very connected to meditation. I don't know if you're meditating. Probably in India, you or at least try that out. Yoga, whatever. To being present, to giving time to our brain to reflect. Can you expand a bit more on that? Can you expand on it? I don't know, in whatever direction you want to take it, from how you are using it today, how you were using it during the job, how you got into it, whatever. I mean, this is the most relevant.
One of the biggest issues in my life was somehow facing decisions and not deciding somehow properly. And once it's not really decided, it will pop up again and again and again and again, especially in decisions where you don't really go into. And this was something I learned also from a class where I went to, that the coach was saying, well, you have to decide. You really have to decide in your life, otherwise it gets a mess. Yeah. So
not deciding and
not deciding gets really messy.
Half decision.
It's not really helping. And I think this is something helped me a lot in really making a kind of list and things I am not wanting to decide. This pops up every day. This pops up every week. This pops up every month. It's not decided. It will pop again. I have to make this as a decision. And saying, well, I go somewhere and you have to find places where you feel quite well, you're really with you, and going to these places and then have this list with you. And you say, well, you just go when you decided about this. You have to make a decision. Whether it's wrong or not wrong, but it's a decision.
So you were literally curving out hours, days to take this.
Yeah, even and if I don't feel well, I sleep on it, and I really find out why I don't feel well. Because if you don't feel well, it's a critical sign, something is something is really more deeply to be analyzed. Why is this? Decisions where I feel well, it's easy, and it makes you happy if you just really smile and say, well, this is decided and really this is a great thing, I will do it exactly this way. With all my energy, I would put in this because I know it's right. Most of the decisions, they're not soft, they're critical decisions, you're not really into it and easy. And I think this helps quite a lot. And I was also thinking about if it's decided, you can't redecide anymore. It's decided.
Sticking to it.
You're not only if something really conditions are changing, then you have to redecide. But if conditions remain the same, you don't redecide. It's decided. This also makes pressure on you that you do everything now for good. That is a good decision for you. And
amazing.
And and sometimes it takes only 2 hours. Then it's decided, and I feel well. It's decided, and I live with it. And I will take the outcome as it is. I don't want to negotiate again on it. And some decisions are quite hard, and
it takes long.
And especially if professional decisions, with kind of colleagues, you have issues with colleagues and things like that. It's not one-dimensional; it's multidimensional. You have to do a lot of angles and see, well, is it me or is it this or is it kind of pressure from up or from down? So you have to analyze things, and you have to do this analysis in a very well thing. And then when you feel well with this analysis and it fits, then you can decide. And just thinking about these things is helpful. But the most helpful thing is really that you have to force a decision, and there's no room to take a longer time for it. You have to do it.
It's very hard to. It makes me. That makes me think about a lot of things, but I find it very hard to not overthink certain decision, but at the same time not underthinking. So basically, where is the cursor, and finding the right cursor? Because certain hard decision, if you rush into them, and you just take a decision, there is not enough thinking.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can also overthink. I'm typically thinking maybe with examples, even with biotech examples, like, okay, launching your next company, next startup. You can think it's so complex. You can analyze in every direction and talk about, but at some point, you need to also make a decision.
Yeah.
Can you maybe go into one example, if possible, a bit more biotech, let's say biotech related, not necessarily science related, but was biotech related, where you managed to find this or how you managed to find this middle ground of good amount of reflection time and good rapidly to decision making?
It wasn't much really about biotech, biotech decisions, because I was quite sure in science. I was quite sure where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
It's more the personal things, exactly. So the co-workers or the co-CEO, for example, they installed and say there has to be somebody who knows about pharma industry. Then you have a co-CEO on sitting on the same table as you, having the same power that you. Can you work with this guy or not? Or if not, what is the solution where I want to go? And this is one example which was doing in this kind of think tank for me, where I really was structuring things. Why I don't like this guy? Why I can't work with this guy? What happens? What's the reason? And really try to structure it. Is it a kind of personal thing, or is it a kind of science-based thing? It's a kind of behavior thing of me or of him, and then really find out these points and try to solve these different points, and then come to a solution. And could be you try again, you change your strategy, do something else, or you don't try again and get rid of him. Yeah, and the first issue was try again. I felt kind of things maybe I didn't maybe try hard enough and try again. And really try to analyze as well what drives this guy. Why is this not really working? Is it on a personal thing or not? So I needed to have more data was in this process, and I really tried to achieve this data. So I wanna maybe also I can push him in this kind of that direction. Then I see his reaction, how he reacts on this. So this was the kind of things where I was also kind of not playing, but I really want to get into more deeply into his mindset, doing different things, and then waiting for the response coming from him. And this was I analyzing, and this was really done. And at this meeting, or in this reflection zone, where I was saying I need to get information about this. And I got this information, and 1 month later, I was going again into that, and I was doing this decision and say, well, okay, now what to do here.
It's amazing.
And then I was deciding, there's so many weird things going on here. I can't work anymore further with him, and I decide then I go to the board and say him or me. Yeah.
Okay.
And I accept it when they say, well, Ingmar, go. Then I will go.
Yeah, you made the decision to the end, and you defined the worst case and best case, and you pre-accepted it.
It was the best because it was so in me that in front of the board that they were saying it's serious about it. He's really serious thinking about it. He will do this. He will leave the company. And this wasn't just a kind of game where I say, well, I would want to put him under pressure, saying, well, I'm leaving, and then I don't want to really leave.
Yeah.
I know, no. No, I was really like this.
It's powerful. I feel like when the decision has been thought through, analyzed, and when you already have pre-accepted the outcome in both cases, it's very powerful.
I really walked in this situation, say, well, I have to leave this company the next day. What I'm going to do there, and how do I feel? And really try really to get in the situation and see this, allow these feelings in your cope with these feelings, and also think about, is it okay for me? Is it really okay? Can I really stand this? Not being anymore CEO, and this guy is a CEO, and I'm out of it. Everything is. Can I really stand it? Not I wish to stand it. Can I stand it? What shall I do? I say, well, okay. Then I move to India. I go to India for 3 months, and try to get kind of distance to everything, and getting more kind of inspiration by India. This was kind of my strategy, how to cope with that. And this made me also then, okay, I can face this decision because I'm prepared for it. I really prepared for it.
That's it's fascinating. I like that very analytical part, but also and this comes also from very biotech, not the science mindset, but from I can feel like a very science-driven, or evidence-based or science-driven decision-making. Having this level of analysis, but also this level of understanding on the psychology aspect, on your own psychology or personality, the other's psychology, personality, and having this analytical level is actually really, it's actually, I mean, impressive and super powerful
It's very powerful.
in life, in everything, but also in building businesses.
And I adapted it from the MBA studies, where this was the most interesting part, how to solve these problems. Not the business things or the calculation things. It was really more how to interact with people. And we also had case studies with our group where we tried and played this kind of thing. So this bad guy, it's a good guy, what you do, and so how to analyze this. Stop it, no, not further. No, you have to reflect. And so these were kind of training things in a kind of new area for me, because I was a scientist. I wasn't into this subject. I wasn't trained by that. But this MBA enables me really to structurize things. And there are kind of matrices and structures which we can adapt. And this was exactly what was I adapting from what I'm for my knowledge.
What you needed to build curriculum. This is fascinating. I mean, even on the show, I mean, trying to also get like personal mindsets. Obviously, some mindset that apply across industry, but also how it applies to, let's say, biotech in a very large life science factor. Because, I mean, the decisions are not necessarily the same. The mind of the people are very scientific mind. So how do you like approach that, or how do you learn that skill? But what I'm still fascinated is how much of it is transferable from others. I mean, for other industries or other people. I mean, the decision making, what you just described, the decision-making process and the psychology/personality is basically very, very similar. That you can learn in the MBA, whether you're a biotech or not, working in biotech or not, which is fascinating on point, but and brings me also to one point, which is, I feel like, and we discussed that a bit before going on the record, that at the end, the people aspect, especially as a manager, is just super important. And I think also, and then drives to it. Also, you mentioned that the people aspect in the biotech is just super important. Maybe there on, can you, I don't know, I mean, I don't even know how to, it's more reflection, how to phrase it, but how, or maybe, let's try this way. But I see quite often someone who is, let's say, a manager or director, VP level in their 40s, and how to make them get that the people aspect is really crucial and will help a lot. So, because I feel like when you come from a science background, you tend to overestimate the science, underestimate the people. And one thing I've seen in biotech is that the people aspect, in a very broad definition as I just used, is super important. So how to bring that actually?
Yeah, I think the science part, there's no question behind. Yeah, we all used to, as a scientist, you're used to interpret the results. You exactly know where to go, and you find also support, because mostly you find support because it's clear where to go. It's logical. If it's not working like this, it has to work like this, and you have to maybe change the buffer concentrations, or you have to do the assay more sensitive or something like that. So it's always clear where to go, and therefore a scientist often is lost if it's not really clear in this kind of, as you said, psychological situations where you have issues and you don't know exactly where they come from. Why it's like this? Why this is not understanding, or why this guy is doing this, or why this is the complete mess here, And so, therefore, I for me it was really fascinating in this MBA to learn about it and to get it also known, because I didn't know it before that this is an issue. If you don't really in this kind of group, and as a scientist you work always for yourself, in your own projects, or exactly you have a project plan where you have to fulfill exactly the plan, and but you're not in a kind of multidimensional things like in a kind of CEO position of a company where you have to go in all directions and all angles, and and therefore that makes it available for me because I really learned from this MBA also to get other mindsets together on a table, not in your own turf, scientists talking to scientists, but scientists talking maybe to a psychologist or to a historian or what. And you see really that's completely different how they interact with problems or how they get to solutions. And therefore, this was fun from the uptaking or from the taking for me that I really, when there's a problem, I really want to get a lot of different people to the table from different mindsets to enlighten also areas which I can't really see with my own knowledge. And that makes it also kind of valuable because if you now get into the decision process, you really see, okay, we checked this already, and we really see it has to go this way. We're all confident here because we also went in other directions, which I haven't seen so far, but these directions also won't work. So therefore, we can confidently now decide we go this way. Yeah. And then we make a decision, and then we don't really challenge this decision until there are other circumstances coming up. And again, this frees you because your table is then empty for this issue. It's solved. Yeah. And
you're bringing up another point, which is taking your own personal decision, but then bringing to a group decision. Yeah. And it's as a manager or leader is also crucial
because we also have our focus, and it's clear that if we don't get off our focus, we will do always the same kind of decision, where we feel this is something which fits in your focus, but not fitting the real issue of this project. Yeah.
So going back to my example, so if say someone around 40 who is in this very analytical mind and doesn't understand this is the more confused world of, let's say, humans and psychology of people, you would definitely recommend someone to do, MBA, maybe, or partly, or working on this topic.
It is MBA, it takes you 2 years. It's a lot of energy you have to spend on that. Could be also other areas where you can work or kind of workshop things where you can get into group things or group dynamics, how to steer with dynamics, or how to lead people. There are some courses and classes where you can learn about these principles, how to lead people. There are different ways to do it. In my circumstances, this was the MBA field. And again, I was doing the MBA because I thought, I need to get a business or get knowledge about business, how to do business, how to calculate things and kind of things, mathematics, business plan writing. And in the end, it was more the other thing, it was more the interaction between people which helped me.
That's actually I think one of the big underrated part of MBA. We always think, it's about like finance plan and accounting and stuff. But this is a bit like science. It's maths. It's not soup. It's not rocket science. It's learnable. Yeah. Actually, I learned a lot from there's one famous course, one part from the Stanford MBA or business school MBA at Stanford, which is called Touchy-Feely. It's, I think, the nickname is Touchy-Feely. I think it's interpersonal connection. And one friend who did it sent it to me, and I think you can find it online as well. And that's just about this, basically about managing others' personality, talking, and at least I learned a lot of it, and I think I can recommend it to anyone. It's basically what you're saying. Take one part more on interpersonal relationship or personalities or thing, and actually I can take as a personal example. For me, it's funny because I come from a very analytical engineering mindset, extreme, and also from my upbringing, and my dad is very emotionally illiterate, scientist, brilliant, but emotionally less literate, and basically, and it's a bit, but I was really in engineering and in myself and very robotic, optimizing productivity and really hardcore. And it does quite work. And I remember when I stepped down from Biotech, which was basically, I did a bit what you said, I took 3 days off. I had my laptop, but disconnected from internet, and I just went through the decision, and I take 6 months of thoughts and data and just took the decision. But I was doing it at one of my mentors' place in south of France. And I still remember, and it made it change completely. She told me, yeah, I've never seen someone so optimized on productivity. But on emotion, you have like a boulevard in France, but you have so much space to grow. And she discovered the term in emotion intelligence.
Yeah.
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously all the work I'm doing is in psychology and emotion. And it's insane how much there is and how much it brings on everything from a founder, leader, decision. I mean, it just impacts so much everything, but I have to say a bit what you said as well. Is like, it's very frustrating field and very hard for me to get into some aspects of it because it's just not a science and it's not measurable in many ways. It's multifactorial. It's super complex, very unknown, but I still think it's really, really worth it. And going into the best possible is just super valuable. And I can talk a lot of the time also on the personal side, struggling with mental health, and I'm working with psychologists for 2 years, and I'm learning a lot there actually. Surprisingly, I would guess in the next 10 years, that's where a lot of value comes, is actually this work, and I'm learning about myself and about psychology indirectly, and I would kind of recommend to everyone to have some kind of psychologist, not necessarily when they feel bad, but just from learning how our brain works and how psychology works. It's fascinating actually, and translating it to business is actually anyway. Next step, but I think emotion intelligence for the people listening, I think if like me 3 years ago, you've never heard about emotion intelligence, Google it, ask ChatGPT, whatever. There's a book, Emotion Intelligence, from a Harvard psychologist, which is amazing. And that's, I think, very valuable, even when you're in biotech.
It's important for all people in a company that they get kind of reflection, or they see more than just a manager. They see really person behind it. What drives this person, what's the spirit of this person, and this opens a lot of energy and levels of people that they do more than just what is required in that job. And I felt it always, I always saw as a team, even when we were 200 people, it was kind of team thing. And this is, for example, one Christmas party in a club was, I was doing a speech on Shackleton. I don't know whether you heard about it. Shackleton, he was at the Antarctic. He was and Decker.
I think I heard.
Yeah. So he was at the Antarctic, and then there was ice at the boat, and the boat was not anymore functional, and then the boat was smashed by the ice, and the whole crew was out there in the cold.
And they did a football party or something.
No. He then they had only a small boat, and then they went for rescue. Quite far away, and it took them about months to reach the rescue thing. And then the people, they somehow survived, and it was kind of really depression because there was no hope that they ever get rescued. And Shackleton was so powerful to drive the boat to the next island where they obtained rescue. Nobody really understood how he did it, and it was just because of the mindset that he felt a responsibility for his people, and that he has to do it and achieve it, that the people get rescued because they trusted him. He was at the command, and this was kind of things coming up to me. I saw a movie about him, and then I did a talk in this Christmas Eve about Shackleton and things what's the situation, kind of CureVac. Is this also a kind of Shackleton situation? Are we also stuck somewhere? And we need rescue, and we need also a kind of psychological hope that somebody will rescue ourselves. And these are kind of pictures, they came to me, and I wasn't really I didn't have any agenda that I want to brainwash people with that. It was just I wanted to tell about it because I
came from
the heart. Because we were in a kind of same situation at that time, lack of money, lack of success. Data were not good, so we were the same kind of mission in that, and so therefore, and I was just reflecting to that and saw some slides about the boat, about the people and things like that. And even 10 years later, people were remembering that and saying this was so impressive. I will never forget about it this evening. Amazing. So it's and this was not really intended. Was just wanted to as you said, from my heart, I was just about the current situation of CureVac. So this reflects, if you kind of open-minded and people know how you deal with the situation by yourself, then people will really align together and say, well, we have now to power, we have to do that. We have to do this second mission.
I like that a lot. I will check this out as well. It reminds me, it connects me to two things, which is one, what you mentioned and what we wanted to discuss on strengths versus weakness. Yeah. And I think, what Werner said in the last episode about these things, you cannot fake it. You have to be authentic. I mean, you cannot ask a whatever consultant to bring you that story. This story resonates because it resonates with you so deeply, and that when you share it with your heart, it resonates, and it's you. It's authentic. Can you? And I think one thing that I see that's you and you have a common with amazing entrepreneurs in biotech, and not in biotech as you mentioned, Elon Musk, other visionaries, is that you put your heart and you lead a lot with your heart as well. I mean, you still lead with your brain and you're still rational, but you lead a lot with your heart. I think that was one of your great strengths. Can you expand a bit there on strengths versus weakness, on maybe doing more with your heart or trying to cultivate that aspect, or was there some talk about all these topics. I don't know what comes to your mind there.
Yeah. Well, I realized very soon that I'm not a scientist itself, so I can't do the science job. I'm more powerful in bringing things forward and working with energy and working with visions and
energy as in energy of people,
or energy on projects as well. So kind of energetic, making people feel there's energy in that. There's a lot of energy here, and makes the motivation. And so then I went kind of in a leading part, and it was clear to me that I'm Shackleton now. I have to lead this kind of sunken ship, which we were all the time. Yeah. No, that's our perspective. When I just look back, it's really this perspective that we were the sunken ship. It wasn't really like BioNTech or like Moderna. Yeah. From the very beginning, it's very successful. We came from this kind of area, from this sunken ship. And therefore,
there it can be a strength.
And exactly, I want to
very survival mindset.
I want to go into strengths, and this is really strengths, because I don't know whether the beginning of the RNA technology everybody would have been survived like we did, but because there were so many mistakes and so many misfortunes in the very beginning area, and there were a lack of data, lack of comparables of others doing the things. So you were kind of really in a kind of an Arctic field where everything was the same, and a broken ship and everything. And you really have to struggle to survive, to rescue the ship. So this was my strengths, my area where I was really in this kind of dangered area where you have to be really in a kind of rescue mission. It's not really when it went to in the normal business things. It wasn't really then the strengths in me anymore. In a kind of ordinary management things, I'm really good in kind of rescuing things, in a rescue mission. So, I'm also trained as a as a Rettungssanitäter, as an ambulance guy.
Rescue. Yeah.
So this was my civil service, and I was also earning money in my studies doing this kind of things. So I'm quite used to this kind of situation where we have to act fast and we have to do the right things in short time frame. Yeah. And then you can also leave it behind and apart. I also can leave things. Yeah, and I think, okay, this is solved, I can leave it. And this was also good, and these were my strengths. And when I'm coming back now to strengths and weaknesses, it was clear to me that I have to work on my strengths. So this kind of ambulance or rescue things, that's my strengths. And getting people aligned, doing the right things in a short time period with lack of resources. That's really my strengths. And all the other things are more kind of weaknesses of me, analytical things, be making business planning and controlling and why this happened. And this is not. So therefore, I surrounded people. They're good in this kind of my weaknesses. Like Florian, I talked already a lot about. He's really analytical. He's working hours and days on one problem and issue and analyzing, why and what and how and so on. This is kind of really opposite of my thinking, where I'm really jumping on things without then thinking later on it, was it right or wrong, because I just felt I have to do it now. And this maybe was from the beginning kind of the success of CureVac, that I was sure and trained by the MBA, I was sure about my strengths and sure about my weaknesses, and that I've compensated my weaknesses, getting the right people surrounding me. I
like that. I like that a lot. I mean, there's this personal aspect of knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, focus on strengths, focus less on the weakness, or at least balance it out. Knowing yourself. What I like a lot, what you just said also, is from a knowing what are the team strengths or team culture, what are the strengths of our culture, what are the weaknesses. And what I like a lot is and we didn't we were supposed to talk about it on your team, especially the core team, and Freund joined you and was very complimentary. Can you talk a bit more there on like the people aspect, especially on the founding team? But I mean, as we said, people are the most important, but how the people aspect, the strengths versus weakness in the core team, how did you manage to bridge that gap between, because I guess how did you manage to bridge that gap between the other parts of the company and the science to align and have a common culture? That's
to select the right people in the leading jobs profile, and to separate the people who are not fitting into this mindset. And the separation is quite hard, because also in terms of the board, telling about this is a great scientist, why you kick him out?
Just don't fit the culture.
That they don't understand that. If they said it's not fitting culture, then make fit it in culture. And I did it also. I built the company around a scientist at the beginning. Where I think this is what is not leading us to anything, because he's doing science. He's not doing any business or no business aspects behind. So this was in our biotech field. This is really a struggle, and would we like to hear Werner Lahnthaler and all the others, the peers, how they act with this kind of issues and problems. I don't know whether this is still a thing, because maybe universities are also changing and they are not anymore this kind of hierarchical structures I knew from a long time. I don't know whether this is still there, but hierarchy things are really an issue. And when we started the company, we also got training, and for my MBA also, I wanted to have not a hierarchy thing. I want to have more kind of department things, a kind of networking things.
More flat, more interacting
structures. No, really hierarchies. But it's a kind of in-between area. You can't really avoid this kind of hierarchical structures, otherwise things getting messy. It is also not possible. You need to have also responsibilities, clearly defined responsibilities with people. But in terms of science, and this is really my last things, it was always a struggle the whole lifetime in CureVac. And this costs a lot of energy as well. We could have put this energy in other things than in this kind of personal issues. And this was my most efforts. I think maybe 70% of my time was in kind of this kind of struggles in the company. 70%, and the other 30% was in representing the company outside. So, but
that's a lot.
50 plus was really this struggle thing.
It's like what you. I mean, it's sad to hear, but at the same time, I think because you put so much focus on it as well, I think it was probably a significant factor that helped CureVac. Reflecting what you said, I think for my observation, I come from a very tech startup side where we don't have that much science, so we optimize operation and management in general. And you have very little startups who are very top down. And just because the data, it doesn't work. The most efficient way to run a company is more flat. You can even go, from more flat to extreme, no hierarchy at all. And I have a blank on the name of just
matrix.
Yeah, no, you can have matrix is basically demonstrate management that you need a matrix, otherwise it just doesn't work. But you can have very flat. What is it? Higher. I forget. But anyway, you have just a chairman, CEO, and then everyone has no even job titles. No.
So the MBA we learned this is called matrix in this kind of where you don't have a really hierarchy, where you can also have teams together, change the teams always.
Yeah. But so, the extreme part is where you don't even have C-levels. You have CEO, and then everyone does whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And just to trust that you hire the right people and the right culture, and then things come out. But what I find fascinating as well is that it goes a bit to what we just discussed in psychology as well, is that it's not exact science management. And there is no exact formula of this is the most efficient. It depends on so many factors, but there are some big trends. Well, there are also some hype, but there are some big trends that show, okay, this works better than others, especially in very high intellectual, creative industries like biotech, where you need someone who is highly creative and scientists who has more freedom will just develop better and bring more value out than someone who is just forced what to do. This, you have pretty much so many examples now. And what you just said on some biotechs are less well organized, I think from my personal experience, from companies I worked with, or from seeing, it's still really much the case. And it's actually pretty crazy. But on the flip side, I see some companies, like Moderna is a good example. They're organized more as a tech company, and Stefan, and from the early on, it's amazing how fast running. I didn't know CureVac was organized in a similar fashion, but I think it's one thing that helps a lot the company to, whatever you want to say, from a capital efficiency, from reaching the milestone, from delivering value. And I think it comes down to the same thing as, if you go on one higher level topic, what always fascinates me is how much, when you build a biotech, how much of the success factors or how much of them are not on the science.
Yeah. It's a good example. Moderna is a good example, and Stefan is a pharma manager from his mindset. But the real opposite of CureVac, Moderna is the real opposite of CureVac, because CureVac is a founder-driven company doing research for the first time, everything for the first time. Moderna is an adapter. They really see the right things and put the right things together and adapt the things and build the things like a conventional pharma company building their projects. We really didn't know, how to gain success. We had to really learn in try and error things.
I would challenge you a bit.
No.
But you started from zero.
But we started really
from a bit.
Not a bit. They really started from a high angle. We already did our first trials clinical trials when Moderna started. So they knew exactly how GMP is working, how to fulfill the criteria of the authorities reaching the levels, the endpoints, and things like that. It was completely different with CureVac. Completely different.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any example. So we really had to do everything by ourselves and learn from ourselves, and we couldn't adapt from anything. There wasn't even there wasn't a peer in the biotech field doing the same thing from the groundbreaking things than we did.
Crazy.
It was really a crazy thing. So therefore, the structure of the company was completely different. And we really had to go in a lot of directions and seeing a lot of things together. And we couldn't really focus on one thing and building the blocks like Stefan could do that. And therefore, the training of Stefan from the Pharma was perfectly fitting into this kind of scheme. But I doubt whether Stefan started CureVac with this amount of money we did. Yeah, for sure not. But also being in a kind of area where there's a lot of fog around you. You even don't see any lighthouse where to go. And this is also not in the mindsets of the pharma industry. So therefore, he's doing the right thing, and he's the best equipped guy for this kind of job, following technology fastly and doing it, avoiding the mistake others did, doing it the right thing. So therefore, it's hard really to compare. You can even compare BioNTech a bit further with CureVac, but even there are also differences in that. But Moderna is completely different. So now I think research what Moderna is doing is also very brilliant. They're doing also a lot of things, but really building things coming up to a COVID vaccine, for example, was really.
Okay. No, I mean, I see the point from technology development. I guess my point was more from a company culture / not too much hierarchy. From a management experience, I can see some similarities, but you make a good point also on more from a technology development and from a risk level and exploration level. It's definitely different. And also even we talked just before also from even focus on people. Stefan sitting with him and he told me, biotech, it's about people. Same as real estate or location. And he has an amazing focus on people, which I think, from what you said, it sounds there are some similarities when different people, Boston people or whatever, and also Boston, I guess, turnaround of people as well. There's different situation. But
I think he really could fulfill his training from the pharma because he has all the resources building up a real big pharma company, and he's really strengths in that as well. I don't know whether I have strengths because I've never seen this before. So I'm more really a startup guy, and this differentiates me from Stefan. He's a pharma guy and he's exactly doing this what he's good in, and I'm more a startup guy, bringing things to life and trying really to build on things which weren't there. This is a big difference. And there was also the reason why I was stepping out of a CEO position, because I was thinking I'm not a really CEO for the next phase of the company. So it should be somebody like Dan Minigella, a kind of trained pharma manager who really knows how to bring and build things on an existing platform.
I kind of want to defend Stefan a bit. I don't know, maybe because I know him about it, but it doesn't really matter.
I think there's no defense needed because he's a great guy. So
he's
speaking about from the founder's perspective.
More from defending him more from. I think he really still started with definitely he and Nubar really found a mindset, even though they were could well financed rapidly, but still. And they went really fast, but still started from not much, when there was not much belief in much more than when you started, but still very, but for sure. He had crazy experience at Eli and was CEO of bioMérieux. He had already a really managerial background, which probably made it also easier to then scale and still run now the company, which is crazy. I like your point also about I think it goes to knowing your strengths and weaknesses as well. Of are you a founder CEO that goes to what stage are you the best to do it, and then are you at what stage you are to continue? I tend to be. I mean, I'm similar to you as well. I mean, I love building things. Since I'm 10 years old, I create things. I have this urge to create projects or companies, and I'm very good at the starting. Probably less good at the managerial position and growing 10% a year, which was actually where Biotech was basically. And my co-founder was extremely good at this. I was extremely good at this and stuff. But I would think. Do you think it's possible? It's some open thing. I'm thinking like, is it possible to grow into that role, or and as a very founder, can you still bring things there? And I'm thinking of some examples of some founders like that, typically very visionary founders, who managed to bridge that gap between like the early days and then running really big companies. And Elon Musk is probably one of a big example, but not even. I mean, the Hoerr guy is in tech. There's quite a few examples, but in biotech, Stefan is probably one of them, but even some others. But do you think it's possible that, like, do you think it would have been possible for you?
Personally, thinking, not really thinking about the others, like Hoerr or Stefan. It's possible to adapt. To answer your question, they show it's possible to adapt. See, the other thing is whether you want to adapt and adapt. And this is kind of more part of the possibilities. It's a part of possibilities, a more kind of personal question. And you can really show that BioNTech is doing a marvelous job. It's a really great organization, and it comes from a really scientific angle because both founders are scientists and they're very strong in that part. Yeah. But nevertheless, they manage a big billion-dollar company like BioNTech. So this is really a great achievement. But it's somehow not into my personality, really. That's because I really see me like a founder, as I picked it. Let's talk about the events in the company, about really to moving things forward, to going into risks, to go with risks, to align people, to feel it, to feel the spirit of the company, to be really close to everything, to encourage people taking the risks and going the way forward. So this is really it's kind of my soul. I really I'm really dedicated to this company, and I think the company felt that also in the beginning, that it was a kind of personal issue or personal thing with Ingmar. And CureVac was Ingmar. There was no doubt about that.
I like this, that it's possible, but it's the man's own choice. And I mean, there's no optimal,
and I felt it. So it's often like that founders, they can adapt to a bigger company. But in my case, it was clear. And again, I made this analytics where we're sitting with what I want to do with CureVac, where I want to go with CureVac, what is my strengths of this company. And I felt, it comes more in the kind of weakness part. You have to do meetings, you have to do plannings, you have to be controlling. There was only a few positive parts, which was presentation of the company, talking with investors, talking with people about this vision and things like that. This I liked very much, and I think that's also a kind of strong part in my life. But the rest of it was really a kind of weak part. And then I was deciding, and I shouldn't go in this kind of weak things. And this was one of the reasons why I decided to go into the board. It wasn't really the loss of energy or things like that. It was just that I felt I'm not really into my strong part anymore.
It's amazing to hear. I think, and we are not running out of time, but I think we need to wrap up. Was a microphone? It's still recording. Is this open? We're running out of battery. But I mean, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I think it's a great conclusion as well. I mean, it's amazing what you've built. I'm amazed by what you've built. The story you went through is so enriching. It's so inspiring. So there's a lot of like self-learning, self-reflection. I think it's the level of inspiration went from this conversation. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ingmar, for joining.
No, thank you. It was good energy. It helped me a lot also talk about topics I wouldn't have talked. When you're really good at going into the deep of people, it's a strength.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Me again. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and thanks a lot for listening to the end. If you're keen, please hit the follow button somewhere maybe, or the like, review, share button, share it with some connections. It would help us a lot, especially this early in the show. And before telling you more what's behind the show, I want to say a big kudos and thanks to the team. Kieran, web development, Catherine in marketing, Mary in logistics, Wayne in editing. They did an amazing job, and there's a lot of hard work put into the show. So now, what's behind? So FLOT.BIO as a company was founded in March 2022. I'm one of the founder, and previously I founded Biotech.eu. And we started the company building a marketplace for the biotech industry, but we didn't have enough product market fit. So we decided to pivot to a content business, with the first product being that podcast. We don't want to create, yet another podcast. There's already a lot of them around. But we believe Europe needs a high-quality, long-form podcast to help both professionals and biotech enthusiasts be better informed, grow, and just be better at what they're doing. And so that's why we are creating that podcast. We are selecting the best Europeans in biotech we can find, and we are interviewing mostly actually offline, so we can have really the highest quality, both technical aspect, but most importantly on the dance and the content and the flow of the internet content. We release around one episode per month on all the major platforms. Money-wise, we are financed by our own private investments, and our business model is based on advertisement. So it's the sponsored messages, slots that you see in each episode. And we are sponsored by financial support from individuals and corporates. So anyway, I will not make it longer. I hope you share our vision, and if you're keen to hear more, or you want to reach out, or you want to share some feedback, please shoot us an email, hi@FLOT.BIO. Again, thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode. Bye.